How's everybody doing? Good. It's almost coffee time that afternoon. But we have a really, really amazing conversation about to take place, because it's really about why this conference is happening. Why is Newark the epicenter right now for the voice first revolution? I mean, really, it's here right now. There are people here from 8 countries, 30 states, 2,500 people. I think we're approaching 3,000. And it's not a mistake that it's happening here in Newark. It's because there's been years of investment, years of work, years of belief in this community. And the folks that I would like to invite all the panelists to start coming up, and I'll introduce the moderator. The people that are on this stage have played an integral role in the transformation of Newark. So we're very excited about this panel, about the transformation of Newark, the transformation into a smart city. What does it mean to be a smart city? One of our partners that we met along the way that joined us.
She's not going to smile. She's not going to smile, is she?
Make sure I get your...
2 days in a row. I'm doing something right.
So one of the early conversations I had was with Michelle Siekerka. She is president and CEO of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. And you know, all of the conversations I've had over the last few months have just been amazing, have been fun, informative for me, and inspiring. And I'm really pleased to introduce our moderator, who will then introduce the panelists. Let's give it up for Michelle Siekerka. Thank you.
All right. I think I'm mic'd up here. Okay, here we go. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here in our great city of Newark today, a city that is evolving in its transformation to be a smart city. And today we're going to spend some time talking about how we got to where we are today. We've got some amazing movers and shakers. These are the boots on the ground. These are the people who've been making it happen. And they're going to share with us today how we've gotten here, what we need to take the next step, and we're going to put that and frame it in the way of people and resources, policy, investment, and all the things we need to know in order to help Newark fulfill its mission and its vision to be a destination city for innovators of the future. So let's make it happen. First, I'm going to introduce our movers and shakers just by name and title. And then we're going to run into some rapid fire questions, and then we're going to take a deep dive. So we have Jim Barrood, the CEO, New Jersey Tech Council. Jim, give a wave so everybody knows who you are. We have Aisha Glover, the CEO of the Newark Community Economic Development Council. Aisha. We have Citi Medina, who's the creative director at Medina Citi. Medina. We have Amy McIlvain, the business development manager, AT&T Smart Cities. Amy. Don Sebastian, CEO, New Jersey Innovation Institute. Rick Thigpen, Senior Vice President, Corporate Citizenship, PSEG. David Wartell, Chief Technology Officer, IDT Corporation. And last but certainly not least, Seth Weiner, who is the former Chief Information Officer, Newark, and now consulting to the City of Newark. Now, we have a great long panel here. I got everybody, right? Didn't miss anybody? Okay. So we're going to get this underway, and my first question to our panel, and I do mean rapid fire, is in one quick sentence, tell me how you explain the evolution of Newark and how we got here today. Start.
In one quick sentence, it's the movement forward of a multicultural city with a wealth of talent, a wonderful capacity with resources and innovation, and a trajectory that's going to be unseen by an American city to date.
Awesome. Rick.
A city that was at one point marked by racial strife and civil insurrection that really left people behind, and now is a city of opportunity that's going to be a really exciting part of the future.
Awesome.
In the beginning, there were the canals, and the canals begot the railroads, and the railroads begot the telegraph, and the telegraph begot the telephone, and the telephone begot the internet, and here we are. And Newark today is about its infrastructure coming to life.
Awesome. David.
Yeah, I think Newark is being reborn, and perhaps it's part of a larger trend across the United States where not everything cool is built on the West Coast.
Jim.
I like to put the analogy to a car. We're in second gear. Right? So first gear is stuttering, then you get power. Second gear is a powerful gear where you feel the thrust of the car. And I think that's where we are in Newark, and there's just so much more roadway to go getting into third and fourth gear.
Aisha.
So how Newark got where it is now, I think is very similar to how the Voice Conference ended up in Newark. It's really just been about collaboration. The city is highly collaborative between the people, the corporations, different stakeholders. We are where we are right now because of the people and collaboration.
Awesome. Don.
So before we knew there was a California, much less a Silicon Valley, Newark was the hub of U.S. industrial growth and innovation, starting with the birth of the nation, and again 100 years later when all the technologies changed. So we are returning to greatness.
Awesome. Amy.
What I see, I spent about 20 years of my career working across New Jersey, and what I'm seeing here for the first time, and it's refreshing, is vision, transparency, accountability, and all that's leading to a rising tide where everyone's going to benefit.
Well, I have to say that absolutely sums up. You know, when I drive up the turnpike and I come upon the great city of Newark and I think, you know, what's going on and how much excitement is emanating out of the city and how that energy can be felt, not just across the state of New Jersey, but over the river into New York and beyond. That was a great sum up. So now we're going to take a deeper dive because we heard about collaboration, people, and resources, and innovation, and infrastructure, and investment. So let's take a deep dive on what these things really mean today in terms of continuing to evolve and form. And Amy, I'm going to start with you. Data is the key to establishing a smart city. Let's talk about the infrastructure enabling the technology that is driving the data here in Newark today.
The key thing that's happening, or that Newark's benefiting from, is that there's so much fiber underground. AT&T is a telecommunications and networking company. In terms of our AT&T Smart City solution, we provide a piece of hardware that you can bolt onto a pole to essentially capture the pulse and rhythm of what's happening in the city today. That activity is capturing data. That data is dormant, but with amazing technology embedded in the hub, that data can be opened up and do amazing city-improving applications. You can build living labs, not just within the city government. You can work with your neighbors, your entrepreneurial community, the academic community, NJIT as an example, and build things that people have imagined but never thought were possible. The key thing, how we distinguish what we do in the marketplace is we fundamentally believe that the data belongs to the city. So whatever's captured it belongs to the city. We never want the city of Newark, to be put in a position where they have to pay for their own data in the future. It's all about the data, and then the AT&T partnership is the common connectivity layer, the common use case that runs across underneath all experiences in a smart city of the future.
That's great. Rick, you're obviously PSEG, infrastructure, another angle as well, but you know, how are you playing a role? How's PSEG playing a role? And again, keeping on that theme of infrastructure right now and driving a smart city and driving the innovation of Newark.
Well, there's no question in public service, we see the possibilities of a smart city to increase the quality of life, to improve our ability to deliver services, and to make everybody more interested in coming to this city. Public services right now replacing gas mains in the city, and we think that provides an opportunity for us while we're digging in the streets to also help install more infrastructure. It is fiber that's going to allow the mobility, the ability for us to communicate with each other, and it's going to unlock all kinds of potential that the more technical experts can talk about. So we are very hopeful to be a part of advancing Newark's infrastructure, making Newark a smart city, and really making Newark what it used to be, a city where people want to come because it's going to create opportunity. It's so close to New York, it's connected to the whole world, and it really can become a very special place again.
Medina, how about some more on infrastructure?
So for me, my particular experience with Newark is not just the unparalleled infrastructure of it, but how does it transition and is accessible to all scales of either startups or those looking to enter into the tech community. So for me, having the access that has been allowed by Seth and by Aisha, who've created frameworks for startups to have access to this high bandwidth, has allowed for innovation to kind of flower in the city. I've seen startups really taking advantage of the capacity of Newark. Yeah. So for me, the technology is one aspect, but when it connects to the startups, that's when I think we're doing our best work in moving the city forward.
So let's stay on that connection because I want to talk more about what's the secret to building the innovation ecosystem around technology. Don, all the work you're doing at New Jersey Innovation Institute, can you share with us some of the detail?
Well, thank you. So you've heard about physical infrastructure, fiber optics, connectivity, wireless connectivity, human infrastructure that we need to build. There are also a variety of soft services and software infrastructure that we need to pull all this together, because our premise is, if we can do that, if we can make Newark an open systems test bed for implementation of great ideas to make urban life wonderful, to make cities like Newark a place where you want to live, work, and play, it becomes a magnet to bring in the development community. And so we really do become then the IoT Valley. We won't dignify the folks on the West Coast. So what are we doing? We're working with the city to connect into the fiber infrastructure. We've attracted people like IBM with Watson Data Analytics, local Juniper here with Cloud Interface, Bell Labs with various forms of analytics and 5G telephony, and a cluster of small companies to really create the analog of your smartphone. Right? Your smartphone has GPS built into it, it has telephony, cellular telephony, data storage, and then laid on top of that you have some common services like text-to-speech and speech recognition, right? So we're creating that capability so that developers, like the app developers in the phone analog, can come in and plug in, and they don't have to create all that themselves. They have all that at their access. So now we've created, we think, some bees, or some honey, if you will, to attract the bears. We got the bees, so that we can create an environment now where not only can the developers thrive through the coaching and services that we can provide and the connection into the workforce, but it also creates a community where big companies can come to shop, where they can look for sources of innovation that frankly become way too expensive for companies to do on their own. Large-scale corporate R&D from 30 or 40 years ago is not going to return, nor can we rely solely on the solitary inventor in their basement to define the future. We've pursued a hybrid model that says, let us pull together the inventor types, the small and emerging companies, and the big companies that have need. Sometimes they'll find what they want in that community, but more importantly, what they may find are partners that can develop a kind of virtualized R&D capability that works across all technology platforms, but our focus here in Newark is to make it happen around the intersection of IoT, data analytics, intelligence, and urban life.
Great. David, speaking about companies with need, how about IDT? How are they filling into the innovation ecosystem?
Well, IDT, I come at it as being one of the largest technology companies in Newark, and so I joined about a year ago to transform IDT into a technology company, and one of our tasks is to rapidly make it an attractive place for technologists to come and work at. And people talk about company culture, but I don't think it's about shorts and sandals, and it's really amazing people generating amazing results and having the freedom to innovate and make change. And there is kind of some trends in culture and society, and it wasn't that long ago that AT&T, Bell Labs, and IBM were the sources of innovation, and then they became kind of the old establishment, and then it was Google and Facebook, but now we're finding when we talk to young developers that those companies are actually seen as the establishment. And the places that are really disrupting are both startups and companies like IDT that, while they've been around for a while, in fact, you may not know this, IDT did the first phone call over the internet some time ago, so we actually invented voice over IP. The companies like IDT, even though they've been around for a while, they're rapidly transforming because people really love to join a place that's about change and making improvement, and in a way, people kind of root for the underdog. And so I think that you see that play out both inside organizations and in our city streets.
And Seth, you're talking to companies and what they're looking for. So what is it about Newark that is, that you're tying them to relative to Newark being that innovation ecosystem, or, continuing on the lines of things that, attract IDT here and what keeps them staying and growing here?
I think one of the great values of Newark is that it's just the right size. So if you're an outside company like a fintech giant looking for a new home, Newark is really that 21st century company town. So when Broadridge was finally settling, they picked 2 Gateway. And we think and we hope that the same calculus will play in with bigger fish or whales like Amazon. Because as you look at Newark and what it has to offer from a tech infrastructure standpoint, getting to work hand in hand with NJII and NJIT, and IDT and Audible and Panasonic and all these infrastructure players, that has a lot of value too.
So speaking of Amazon, Jim, I'm going to jump over to you now because this is a great story. Tech Council in the spirit of trying to get Amazon's attention, actually sponsored a plane to go fly across HQ1 that said, New Jersey loves technology, come to Jersey. Why don't you tell us what the banner said and then what you've been doing in terms of also helping in the ecosystem?
Sure. So we flew a plane over at headquarters and said, come to Jersey, Jeff. But we also sent 1 million mobile ads to phones geo-fenced around the headquarters as well as other media outlets around the country. So really it was a creative campaign to really highlight the city, whether Amazon comes here or not, as a hub for tech companies to grow and thrive, right? So we need to change the perceptions. We need to really hit people over the head in different ways to get them to pay attention to this great city, which is growing by leaps and bounds. And so, for us as a technology trade association, we want this whole ecosystem to thrive because a rising tide lifts all boats. So we have great companies, PCG, IDT, Audible, Amazon, and others, the big companies as well as the small companies through accelerators like MVP and others. We have the components. The hard work is still at hand, right? Because while buildings and infrastructure is easy in some ways, the communities, the collaboration, working together, helping each other to thrive is harder. And I think we're on our way. And again, with great schools like NJIT and leaders like Aisha and others here, we're on our way. Whether Amazon comes or not, this city is set to grow.
Aisha, I want to come to you because we know these things don't happen in a silo. It takes someone to bring them all together. And here in Newark, you are truly that boots on the ground at the Community Economic Development Council. What I've heard on the street is that when tours are planned for Newark, whether it was Amazon or in fact attracting this great voice event here today, it was the welcoming spirit of the city that really lynched the deal. So thank you for that. And can you talk to us about what you're doing to market Newark in particular and how you are extending the warmth of the city to people coming in and how that's translating?
Sure. So I like to think that we roll out the red carpet. I think Seth hit the nail on the head in terms of Newark is just the right size. If you're in a larger city, you may not ever have the benefit of sitting across from the president of a large corporation or across from the mayor. We are really, truly all hands on deck here. And it plays right into some of the reasons why I believe that we landed on the short list for Amazon. Really us kind of embracing that collaborative environment and being genuine with it, right? We don't put on a show and dance for the visit and then fall back. Like, this is who we are. We have our public service corporation right at the table. We have the entrepreneurial community right at the table, and it is really, truly genuine. One of the reasons why we were so excited to be able to host Voice is because it does play into some of our broader marketing efforts. We need to better position the city and make sure that folks understand, and I think it's actually worth taking a second and having Seth give the full breakdown of this. We're kind of generally talking about the data infrastructure, but what does that look like that this city has the fastest internet speeds in the nation, right? What does that mean if a firm was willing to move from one local city in New Jersey to Newark just to benefit from every nanosecond, right? So making sure that we're really pulling on those assets and those attributes so people understand as we're marketing and promoting the city, it's not just to land a next big corporation. This is really us leveraging what's already here. We have room for growth. I frequently joke that we're built for this. Whatever it is, we're built for it. And we need to better position that and make sure that folks understand.
Awesome. Amy, you're someone who has been working on smart cities for a while and has been doing it not just here and around Newark, but in other places. So let's take a moment and just talk about some best practices that you've seen from some of the other work that you've done and how we can think about bringing that and adapting that back to Newark.
Based on my experience, the key is to have vision, to understand that this is not something that's going to happen in a period of 5 years. It's something that's probably going to take 30 years to build out. it's really the opportunity to deliver on the experience of looking at things in a portfolio approach. So rather than funding a single department, this provides the opportunity to step back and look at all the needs of a city and how those needs can be integrated. So taking a portfolio approach to really create economic gravity for a city. And then the key thing is to figure out how to bring the city leadership on board. You need the city leadership on board. That's a very difficult balancing act, because in most cases, a mayor, a city leader, is elected for 2 terms, which is 8 years, and they're trying to get their things. So it's not just the government is part of the message, it's the entire ecosystem inside a large urban environment, a large city, working with the economic development agencies that are not part of the city, but a partnership. They're working with the city in a partnership. It's bringing the academic community forward. It's bringing the business leaders forward and illustrating and blueprinting what this vision is all about. It's really the first time I've been in the business of working. I've worked inside government, a large city. I've worked for a large state government in the budget department. And then I flipped over to technology. This Smart Cities is the first time to deliver on a lot of the academic pursuits, zero-based budgeting, all those types of fancy programs. This is the opportunity that will deliver on that vision, that mission, that opportunity.
So when we start to talk about government, government can be an enabler. Government can also sometimes get in the way. I think what's been fabulous is here in Newark, we have seen government truly be an enabler, bringing business together all across the city, having business actually participate in growing the workforce here through different types of summer programs, apprentice programs, hire local programs. Everything comes right back in. The placemaking that's done here, where companies are creating communities for their own workers to live in. We have a lot of great placemaking going on here, but I want to talk about the role of government a little bit more in terms of enabling policy in order to make this an easier lift than it could sometimes be when we get bogged down in some red tape. So who could talk about some good policy that we've seen?
For me, I own a co-working space. I'm a co-founder for a co-working space that's 100% Newark. And one of the best things is the capacity to bring the Economic Development Corporation together along with the mayor and create more transparent conversation for those startups that are looking to do things. Some of them are attending today, and I'm really excited that they have the opportunity to further grow their models through voice. But for me, it's the summer internship program that we're able to employ. These are college-bound students. We at Equal Space, which is the co-working space, have 2 different internship programs. One is for second-year students, because that's when the most likely for urban students to drop out of school. We are really intense in our second-year college student internship. And then we have the ones applied by the city, which are those who are pursuing different avenues in technology, from marketing to branding to hardcore development, and we're able to pair them with the startups in our ecosystem and allow them to get real hands-on deck experience. So they're growing their skill set in a real capacity outside of the academic bubble. And then the other side of it is I get to go, I'm a professor at Rutgers, and give hardcore coding skills to my students in the Rutgers program. So for me, it's threefold. Newark has allowed me to affect the current startups and the future generation of innovators that are inside the city walls.
Great, and we're going to talk more. Actually, let's continue. Let's stay on workforce development. We'll come back to some of those other policy initiatives in a moment, because if we build it, they will come. So maybe we can attract the companies, but what about the workforce to support the companies that are here? Don, NJII and NJIT being the academic along the table here, talk a little bit about the workforce of the future, what we need to be doing to prepare them and keep them here.
So you put your finger on a very important corollary benefit to the technology, right? Technologists, we love it. We would adopt it because we're early adopters. But the real push here is to solve problems that address quality of life throughout the wards of Newark. And in so doing, it becomes potentially transformational in terms of people's attitudes towards STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Because now it's in your face. I grew up in the space era. That was in our face every day. It got everyone excited about these things. But for a long period, there hasn't been a whole lot to get people excited. Now we have an opportunity to turn that excitement into educational programs that begin at the very base levels. People form lifelong attitudes about math and science between 1st and 4th grade. So it's really important to just get that flavor of why this is important and good penetrating into the K through 4 curriculum. Then to start to build with the applications and coding skills and all those sorts of things, which other cities are beginning to see happen in the neighborhoods once you get excitement around technology solving real life problems. Then it becomes autocatalytic, because once you've got that passion for it and basic skills, then you can move on to higher degrees. And by the way, it's not just technology jobs. There are service jobs, there are repair jobs, there are sales jobs, there are office jobs. So all of these things begin to become a breeder to create new job opportunities, and it's our obligation to prepare the community to be stepping up first in line for those job opportunities, because there's a huge need and there's an inadequate supply.
And just talking more about that is, we were able through EqualSpace to partner with NJIT and the workforce development to create a coding program for those citizens who are not gainfully employed. And it was with Seth that we had it at EqualSpace. It was a night program, 3 nights a week, with Code Crew. And 100% of those participants stayed with the program, and more than half of them found employment. And that was like...
I think we have 2 program graduates right here.
Yeah,
actually.
they're right over there. Super cool. So that's like getting non-professional for a minute. That's freaking dope. Like, it's very rare where you can find all these people come together at a table, and you know the betterment is your first entry level to accessing the basic coding can change the trajectory of a citizen. And that's what gets me excited, is like past the infrastructure, when it activates, you can look at faces and know that like they're killing the game now.
That's outstanding. Seth, being a partner in that, do you want to speak to that a little more?
I think to tie in the workforce with the last question, I think government as a platform should be sort of the motto, right? So things that involve large dollars or public spaces, you're going to need the city government and the leadership of Mayor Baraka to bring people together, to put some of the money on the table and to provide that public space. And then what goes on after that, and this is again I think what makes Newark very special, is that if you get the right people together, you can come up with a creative solution to the problem that may take off. I mean, City of Code was or the Art of Code as we called it, was a very successful first pilot. We have to scale it. We have to bring it to the place where hundreds of students a year are going through it. And that's in fact what we're probably going to see over the next 12 months right here in Newark. And cybersecurity, as IDT and others kind of push into that, and workforce training pushes in that direction. But to go back, I think the platform model is a good way to think about it, which is to say the city government can't do everything, but we can start the conversation. We can bring smart people like everyone here in the room around these types of things, and then we can try something. We can be bold.
Awesome.
So I just want to add something there quickly, Michelle, just around workforce development. Oftentimes we start from a place of deficit, assuming that we need additional programs and support and training. Newark is really at the epicenter of the country's largest talent pool, right? And we are, and when I say we, I mean both the city and the state, we export talent. I believe we are the highest exporter of talent, right? And New Jerseyans are working everywhere else, right? So for a corporation to confidently move into a city knowing that they will help retain a lot of that talent, right? So I just want to make sure we're not always starting from that place of deficit, assuming that we're going to have to rely on universities, although we do rely heavily on NJIT and the talent that's coming out of here, and Rutgers. We already have an existing strong talent pool that we certainly highlighted in our pitch to Amazon for HQ2, but that is unmatched anywhere else around the country.
Absolutely. New Jersey, #1 in the nation, if not the world. PhDs and scientists per square mile, we have the most. It's tremendous, the high level of talent, and we know that that's an attraction for business. And I want to go to the 2 businesses, PSE&G and IDT, and I want to ask you relative to recruiting and retaining the workforce for this space. What secrets are you finding? What are you finding about the workforce? What are you doing that might be unique, though not proprietary, right? But to attract them and keep them. What are they looking for, this next generation of worker? Rick, why don't you start?
So that's a very interesting question. So first off, the workforce in this area is very diverse and multicultural. And you have to be thoughtful about how you attract them, and you have to have a workforce where they want to exist and stay, where there's opportunity and where they feel welcome. Number 2 is a company like Public Service needs talent. We are a technology company also. We can improve the quality of your life. You know, we want you to pay us every month on your phone. We want you to find out about outages on your phone. We'd like to work with the city so you can find out about traffic jams on your phone and find all kinds of information. That's going to bring talent to the company. We want to see our company innovate, and it's a very big challenge. You know, can we integrate voice technology into the utility grid so that you can have the benefits of the most modern technology? We need talent to do that. Talent doesn't come in one gender, it doesn't come in one nationality, it doesn't come in one color. We have to be open to pursuing talent in all different types of people and faces, and that's no little challenge, and that's also a part of government policy as well, to open that door, because there's so much talent in this room, there's so much talent in Newark that's not properly trained, that doesn't have all the opportunities it needs. If government works with the people will have the talent to really help public service deliver better services in the future to help improve the quality of your life.
Great. David.
Yeah, I think the secret is technologists want to see the results of their work, especially in the marketplace. And so by coming into a company, at least in our case, our scale, they're able to see their product go to market, see it impact a lot of people in their lives. And we've hired, for example, people from Adobe and Amazon and Facebook and all these different companies because they may have been on a side project that never saw the light of day, or as these other companies have been big, people get frustrated because they're unable to make change and have an effect on what they're doing every day. So I think the opportunity to improve and see those results and touch them with their hands is really the secret.
Amy, AT&T certainly is at the cusp of innovation and probably looking for the next brilliant genius to come walking in with the next great idea. Anything going on there you want to share about workforce and attraction retention?
Part of our solution offering, the AT&T Smart City solution, is we work with cities, we provide a curriculum to go into the public schools, focusing on STEM principles to enable them to understand the technology. We recognize that for every one tech job, there's an opportunity to create 4 or 5 other jobs. So we are committed to developing the next future workforce. I can only speak about the smart cities. I know that there's an equal and even greater horsepower working on the telecommunications and the networking side, especially as we move towards small cell and 5G technology. That opens up a tremendous door of opportunity, because that's all about faster telecommunications, creating greater access and sharing more data, more information. So we are working at the ground level in cities with their public school systems to launch these curriculums.
Great. Jim, I know that you're talking with your companies every day, again, not just about creating the next best piece of innovation, but the people who are going to drive it. Anything you want to add on workforce development?
Yeah, I'll just add that we have to keep up with the pace of change.
Yes.
Right? So teaching different skills and bundling them in different ways. There's a major transformations going on right now in education, and NJIT is leading sort of the pack in the way they're being innovative and teaching students, from high school and below all the way to college and beyond. Remember, machine learning is coming; it's here. That's what this conference is about. So that when we say we're teaching kids about coding, that may change in as little as 2 or 3 years when we're teaching them about how to critically think and keep learning how to train the computers or build the software that's going to help this economy thrive. So I just wanted to mention that. We have to, right now we're doing great, but we just have to, it's a moving target, and we're not competing against other states. We're competing against other regions around the world that are focusing twice and 3 times as hard with twice and 3 times as much money into building the next generation workforce. And so we just have to never forget that and just keep sort of developing our programs to develop and retain the workforce going forward.
And I think what's so significant in this discussion, we talked about that high skill level of talent and how much we have and how proud we are of it. But it's that middle level skill talent, because when we talk about coding and technology, not every one of those jobs is a bachelor's, a master's, a PhD. Many of them are a certificate program, associate's degree. People can earn while they learn, be lifelong learners. And in the state of New Jersey, while we have that one great statistic, unfortunately we have another one where we have about 44,000 vacant jobs, middle level skill. And that's in a lot of the companies and work we're talking about here. It's not just about inventing the next best thing. It's about who knows how to run the widget, fix the widget, replace the widget, right? Significant part of the discussion as well. We're talking about investing. So we talked about investing in people. Now let's talk about investment in terms of driving dollars into an innovation ecosystem and how we do that. Certainly we have companies up here who are personally, meaning the company, invested in the city by their own labor, by the dollars that they put in and the jobs that they create. But how about for the startups, the smaller company? How do we attract that new level of investment into Newark, be it angel investors or crowdfunding and some unique ideas about that? Medina, why don't you start us off?
So that's a question that we all talk about like all the time. For me, it's a tier. So I run a tech co-working space. It's also entrepreneurship in nature. So I think I'd love to talk about the duality of that, is that while they're hard tech startups, there are innovative entrepreneurial startups that engage in tech-enabled kind of verticals. For me, it's bringing in investors who have zero knowledge about Newark, but have heavy investment in the portfolios and the areas that I see startups flourishing in Newark. So we play ambassador to like Lorraine Pendleton, who's an amazing unicorn, and she invests in multicultural startups. We created with Refinery 29 a wonderful accelerator for women-only startups. So for me, I personally am spending as much time outside the city walls, showing them the hardcore statistics, like investors love statistics.
Yeah.
So showing them, this is what it looks like. You say that there are no middle management. Look at 98% of my tech community looks like this. You're saying there's no multicultural upper management level. Look at what's coming out of NJIT's program. Look at what's coming out of Rutgers' program. So for me, starting at the most micro, 5,000. I just came from Rising Tide Capital Start Something
Great
Challenge.
story. They have a great story.
I mean, Alpha's a boss,
Yeah,
and
phenomenal.
to be a part of that, Aisha was with me last year. To be a part of giving a startup $5,000, that takes them somewhere. $10,000 next round. $20,000 with organizations like Greater Newark Enterprise Corporation, Intersect Fund. Those, like, I look at the scalability of it as just different places that my startups can have access to capital.
That's outstanding. Aisha, why don't you share some more of the great story of the investment going on in the city? Because I know, again, you being on the front lines of this, you probably have some good stories to share.
Yeah, so while there's a lot of investment in property and land and buildings, we actually talk about this a lot. We struggle in this space for investing in smaller entrepreneurs. So I actually spend a lot of time trying to cultivate folks, and sometimes it's just as simple as tours and making connections and introductions so you can hear firsthand from entrepreneurs that are building their business now, and that they're in various phases of fundraising. But I think to make those stories real is critical. And so we've assembled and done roundtables with investors and VC funders, I would say at least a half a dozen over the last year, and really trying to make sure that we're making some purposeful connections. While I appreciate and value, and my organization has actually held pitch competitions and awarded folks $5,000, $10,000, we need to really think beyond that, right? This is not about a check that I can write just off of my general operating budget in my office. This means that we're at a level now where we need significant investment, and we need to be thinking strategically about those mid-level businesses that can scale if we're making intentional investments. So I'm constantly kind of scouring the landscape of the city and trying to identify new folks that are in that sweet spot, and then trying to more intentionally make those connections.
And let me just,
Rick,
can I just add, I think that's really important that, besides the policies of reducing regulations and red tape, it's about embracing the entrepreneurial class. And that's sort of one-on-one, and we can all do that. It's a blocking and tackling sport. It takes time. Pipelines of entrepreneurs don't just appear. They take years and years of community building, and then they attract others. So it's a virtuous cycle, but it doesn't happen overnight.
Rick, I'm going to come back to you in a second, but I know Don is dying to jump in because with NJII, and I know, again, around that table, you're creating folks who are really thinking about the investment side.
This is the core of what we do, right? So what does an investor want? Wants deal flow. Well, how do you get deal flow? You need lower risk, things that are ready. You know, everybody wants to catch a rising star, but that's highly risky. So our whole program of opening up the city and using the city's infrastructure essentially as an investment in helping companies go from PowerPoint slideshows and slick 2-minute elevator pitches to actually proof of concept is part of what we think reduces that barrier to going from idea to an investable company. It also reduces the barrier to making sales, because in the end the companies want investment only so they can get to the point of either selling, being bought, or doing an IPO. So all of this is designed to create densification of related companies. They help each other grow. A voice expert may be working with an IoT expert on the device side and a big data analyst to create essentially a new product out of those three. We help them grow, but we bring in the investors who can now shop and see not just one company out of 30 or 40 in our incubator across all technology areas, but maybe one company out of 40 that relates to the Newark asset that we're creating, the IoT. That makes it easier shopping for them, and the things that we're doing reduces the risk of that investment. We think that's magic, and that's a way that you can fan the flames of a cluster and make it grow faster than having to wait the 30 years that it took in California or in North Carolina.
Amy, I'll be right back that way, but Rick, tell us the role like PSEG, a larger company, plays in this. Yeah.
So public service spends about $2.5 billion every year on goods and services. And we try to work with people like the Innovation Institute, because as we try to replace our equipment, as we try to modernize our equipment, as we try to upgrade and make everything smarter, we're looking for those startup companies who can supply those goods. There's nothing more important for a company like Public Service than to find New Jersey companies who can produce the goods that we need to make our system smarter and better in the future. So I think it's very important for government policy to help encourage companies like us to do more of that. And we are constantly looking for those opportunities. It's really a part of our success to be a part of making New Jersey stronger. As Public Service really sees it, as we make our New Jersey economy stronger, we make our own corporations stronger. So we're going to be continually looking and working with people like the Innovation Institute to try to find those companies ourselves.
You just played into one of my favorite themes. Great companies make great communities, and this collaboration here today is a great example of it. Amy, you wanted to share something?
Yes, I wanted to offer one of the key pieces to the AT&T Smart City solution is our ecosystem of partners, companies that can build outcomes specific for cities. And in order to feed that beast, AT&T as the company with our partner GE, we host hackathons to feed that ecosystem of partners, and we've had some great successes. Yeah. We've had some, our biggest one resulted in a $50,000 award, so we did it.
There's quite a few of you in this panel I have to connect with Junior Achievement, who just started this year hackathons with their students. They were wildly successful, and they actually, as you all know, and I don't have to tell you, it changed the students' minds about what they want to do in the future. These kids never even thought one day about coding or about cybersecurity, and now they can't wait to get more. So some connections coming here to Junior Achievement, certainly.
I'm glad you brought up hackathons. So IDT Ventures runs a hackathon, and the whole point is different teams enter, and they have about 48 hours to go from zero to a minimum viable product that they could potentially sell. And I think what you heard here is, at least in technology startups, I don't think there's any lack of investors or money. What there is there's a lack of good deals and great startups to invest in. And so, I'm looking, and IDT is looking for great startups.
Awesome. Seth, you want to weigh in on the investment side and what we can do to attract investment into the city of Newark?
I think the city probably has 2+ venture funds right now with Newark Venture Partners and IDT Ventures. Getting to 3 and 5 and 10 would benefit all of those venture funds, so we get to a greater economy of scale, and more of the New Jersey community can see Newark as their home of where they want to be. And I think that's a natural process. I think what Newark brings to the table is some of that infrastructure, which would cost a lot more in another city. But cash on the table would also, help fuel that forward. But I think we need to get to the place where we have 5+ venture funds in Newark, so that an NJIT graduate who works in Medina's co-working space can polish their pitch, and then can aim for one of these 5 venture funds and go for it.
Awesome.
Let me just mention, as far as money, there's many venture funds now. There's a lot of money in the market. The money will find its way, whether they're located here in New Jersey or in New York or in the region or even external to the country. If we can produce the pipeline, the money will flow. We just started our second venture fund, so they just made their first investment. There is money out there. We just have to build the opportunities.
Okay, so I'm sure there are people in this audience who are saying, well, tell me where those opportunities are. Is there a website I can go to? Is there someone I should call? Does your council have information on investors? Can anyone help for the folks who are here today? Where should they be looking for these opportunities? I've got a great idea and I'm looking for money.
So I'll tell you to go to equalspace.co. Shameless plug, but it's the truth. My team who's here, they work tirelessly to connect. I mean, I talk with Jim, I talk with Seth, I talk with Aisha. I'm like, what's happening across? But there are other, like Esther Cerdan, who does NJ Tech Weekly. I call her like the godmother of tech because she manages to be in all places at once. Like you could see her literally at 5 events back to back. I know she's here. Yeah, you see? Like, of course. But
you got your fan club out there today.
Yeah, it's just, for me, information's power. So having those things, but there are wonderful co-working spaces across the state that also serve to let people know what's going on in their landscape. I know anytime there's something coming up or a pitch coming up, I'm like, Jim, what's the information? How do he sends it to me in like 2 seconds?
So Jim, you're a go-to on this. Information on your website.
Sure.
Go to NewJerseyTechCouncil.org.
Yeah, there's information on our website, EDA's website, NJ Tech Weekly, but it's a matter of really going to all the events. Medina holds some great events. There's events throughout the state. There's many in Newark. It's really about getting out there, pitching, networking. It's not you just press a button and it happens. It takes hard work. But again, once that hard work is done and there's a prospect of success, the money will come.
Yeah, we say every day that you have to plant a seed, you have to water the plant, you have to go and nurture the plant, and all of a sudden it starts bearing fruit. And it doesn't happen overnight, but if you have tenacity and you're persistent and you got a good pitch and you got a good product and you know how to build relationships, you're going to do it, right? Now we obviously in Newark, we've got the people, we've got the resources, we've got the money, and we've got the talent, and we've got the infrastructure. Now, how do we take it to the next level? We got about 10 minutes left, and I said rapid fire, but you got a little bit more than just 2 minutes as I run down the panel here. So we're just gonna go in sequence. If you took out your crystal ball and you said 5 years from now, Newark is this.
5 years from now, Newark will be the home of several global companies, all seeing the same potential we see today, which is a lot of what you mentioned. But I believe Newark is great because of the people and the spirit of collaboration that I see every day. And 5 years from now, I see us on being the next East Coast city of innovation. I'm not going to say Silicon City, I'm going to say the city of innovation.
Outstanding. Rick?
5 years from now, Newark will be a smarter city and a global community. My mother was born in Newark, and when she was born in Newark, Newark had about 450,000 people in it. And 5 years from now, Newark will begin to grow again and begin to attract those businesses and attract talent back into our city. And Newark Airport will be busier, and the Port of Newark will be busier, and public service will be busier because of all these activities happening in our city.
Excellent. Seth?
National leader in self-driving cars.
Oh, okay.
Let's go
Very
for it.
focused.
Let's go for it.
Outstanding. David?
You said Newark has all these things, and I think you're absolutely right, and Newark is fantastic. But one thing that I think is a headwind on everything we're doing in Newark is really the state, and we have to look to the state to make Newark a more business-friendly environment. Because as I talk to other business owners and entrepreneurs, that would be the only thing that you could come up with as an objection.
Well, since I'm sitting next to Aisha, in 5 years, Newark will be the next Brooklyn with better access to transportation and a better and lower cost of living.
Aisha?
In 5 years, Newark will not be the next Brooklyn.
Right.
It will be Newark 5.0. No, in all seriousness, I hope that in 5 years, nationally, people look at Newark as the model for equitable development. We have a tremendous opportunity to think a lot more inclusively. We're in a climate right now that says otherwise. I think through tech, through innovation, through development, we can be thinking a lot more holistically about what equity and what inclusion means, and we can build towards that. We can program for that. We have the infrastructure, we have the talent for it. We're already kind of greasing the wheels, and a lot is already in motion. We have the leadership for it, and I think that not even in 5 years or less, the nation will start to kind of move its lens towards Newark as what a model can be for an equitable
Great.
city.
Don?
Well, that's hard to follow. So I'll just say it in a different metaphor. I see Newark like the tent post of a circus tent that will be the anchor of the state's resurgent economy. And that tent will be large enough to cover not just the boundaries of Newark, but as it once did, the entire North New Jersey, and maybe even carry the South along with it still.
Awesome. Amy?
In 5 years from now, I believe that Newark will be continuing to capitalize on all this great progress. There will be more global companies situated here and continued improvements in transportation. I think that Newark sits in a perfect zenith with great transportation that's not articulated enough, and continued improvement and investment in housing stock.
So let me just say it, at NJBIA, we have a vision. Ordinarily, an organization has a vision for itself, and you have a mission, and you have principles that guide you, but our vision actually is a vision for the state beyond what we just do. And at NJBIA, we want to be a part of helping New Jersey reclaim its stature as an innovation state. And I have to say, based upon what we've discussed here today, and as we look forward, the trajectory that's in front of us, we are absolutely in the epicenter of innovation that can drive it across the state of New Jersey. Why don't you all join me in thanking this wonderful panel. We can welcome them and do it again because they are on fire, but thank you so much.